Welcome to Academy House. We are sorry we can't invite you in this year for Culture Night, but please join us on this virtual tour, where we will tell you about the long history of the Royal Irish Academy, our wonderful and important library collections, and the history of the building which the Academy has called home for almost 170 years.
The Royal Irish Academy was founded in 1785 to promote the study of science, polite literature and antiquities, and was incorporated by Royal Charter in 1786, the 26th year of the reign of George III. Since its early days, it was recognised by the Irish Parliament as an important object of public bounty, under the patronage and protection of the King. Membership of the Academy was prized by the leading scientific minds in Europe in the 19th century, and its transactions were distributed to libraries in Great Britain, Europe, and the United States. The first president of the Academy was James Caulfield, 1st Earl of Charlemont, a prominent Irish statesman who was a strong campaigner against the Act of Union. The library holds Caulfield's papers, which includes correspondence, essays, memoirs, and translations of literary works, together with commentaries on the texts. Caulfield died in 1799 and was succeeded by the Irish chemist and geologist Richard Kiernan. Other presidents have included the Irish mathematician Sir William Rowan Hamilton, poet and antiquarian Sir Samuel Ferguson, and naturalist Robert Lloyd Prager. One of the most influential members of the Academy was arguably George Petrie, often referred to as the father of Irish archaeology. Petrie served as vice president on more than one occasion and contributed greatly to the museum and library collections. Prominent honorary members of the Academy include Charles Darwin, Maria Edgeworth, and Albert Einstein. Women were first elected to the Academy as ordinary members in 1949. Mathematical physicist Sheila Christina Tinney, art historian Françoise Henry, scientist and botanist Phyllis Clinch, and the Irish language scholar Eleanor Knott were the first 4 women members elected to the RIA. Today, the Royal Irish Academy continues to champion research by supporting scholarship and promoting an awareness of developments in science and the humanities.
The Royal Irish Academy has been collecting manuscripts of Irish interest since its foundation, and the library holds an important collection of medieval manuscripts in the Irish language. One of the most impressive is the Book of Ballymote, presented to the Academy in 1785. This large manuscript was written on vellum in the late 14th century. The scribes laid out the pages in 2 columns for ease of reading and added decorative initials to guide the reader. The manuscript contains important medieval genealogies, place lore, saints' lives, translations of continental tales, and a key to the Ogham alphabet. Our oldest manuscript is the Catach, thought to date from the late 6th century. It is written in Latin and said to be the work of St. Columcille, copied in haste from a psalter that he borrowed from St. Finian. A dispute arose about the ownership of the copy, and King Diarmaid gave the judgment, "To every cow its calf, to every book its copy." The manuscript survived because it was placed in a special cúdach or metal shrine in the 11th century and treasured as a relic of St. Columcille. Also in our collection is a manuscript known as Lar na Hire, This is the oldest manuscript entirely in the Irish language. It dates from before the year 1108, and it includes the earliest version of the famous saga, the Táin Bó Cúailnge, the cattle raid of Cooley. It is said to have been written on the hide of the favourite cow of St. Ciaran of Clonmacnoise, and is sometimes known as the Book of the Dun Cow. The Academy bought it from Dublin book dealers Hodges and Smith in 1844. A few years earlier, in 1831, the Academy bought the original manuscript of the second half of the Annals of the Four Masters. These annals are an important chronicle of Irish history, written by a Franciscan, Michael O'Clery, and a team of other professional historians in the 1630s. Finding the original manuscript prompted John O'Donovan to prepare a printed edition with an English translation. This was published in the years 1848 to 51. The first part of the original manuscript of the Annals of the Four Masters came to the Academy in 1883 as part of the Stowe-Ashburnham collection of Irish manuscripts. The Stowe Missal also came to the Academy in 1883. This missal is our second oldest manuscript. It is more than 1200 years old. It contains the text of the Mass in Latin and is bound with the Gospel of St. John. It contains just a few illuminated pages, and these are decorated in subtle autumnal colours. Scholars still debate whether it was written at a monastery at Talla in County Dublin or at Lorha in County Tipperary. It was found in the walls of Lackeen Castle near Lorha in the 18th century. During the 1830s and early 1840s, Academy members such as George Petrie and John O'Donovan were employed on the Ordnance Survey project to create accurate, large-scale maps of Ireland. After the project ended, the Ordnance Survey letters, memoirs and antiquarian drawings were transferred to the Academy Library. The drawings include sketches by George Victor Dunoyer, William Wakeman and other artists. A full set of the printed 6-inch Ordnance Survey maps was also presented. The library holds important collections of older printed books, many of them formerly owned by Academy members. For example, the Library of Thomas Moore, who was regarded as Ireland's national poet, was acquired in 1855, and it is still kept together as a collection. Charles Halliday's huge collection of pamphlets and manuscripts was presented to the Academy by his widow in 1867. Halliday was a Dublin merchant and historian. His collection of over 35,000 pamphlets spans hundreds of years. These small printed items show how political, cultural and scientific information was disseminated in the past. During the 20th century, the Academy Library continued to have a strong focus on Irish history, archaeology and on the study of the Irish language. One major Academy research project culminated in the publication of a dictionary of the Irish language, which traced the evolution of Irish words down to the year 1600. In parallel with that work, the Academy's Irish language manuscripts were catalogued in detail, and these descriptive catalogues were also published. The Library of Osborne Bergen, one of Ireland's renowned linguistic scholars, was bequeathed to the Academy in 1951. Like many other older printed books in our collections, the books owned by Bergen often include his annotations in the margins. In the 21st century, the Academy Library continues to collect new academic books on the Irish language, Irish history, biography, archaeology, and the environment. We work with colleagues in other institutions, such as the Irish Script on Screen project in the Dublin Institute of Advanced Studies. This allows us to make our most important manuscript holdings accessible online, helping researchers worldwide who are interested in Irish studies. We have also published an illustrated book of essays on the treasures of the Royal Irish Academy Library, where you can read more about the extraordinary manuscripts, drawings, books, pamphlets and maps in our collections.
The Royal Irish Academy hasn't always been based on Dawson Street. Originally, they were at 114 Grafton Street, in a building called Navigation House. As the Academy membership increased and the collections grew, their Grafton Street premises became too small, and 19 Dawson Street was acquired in 1851. Situated between the Mansion House and St Anne's Church, the exact date of the building is not known. Around the year 1719, an earlier house was built on the site for Lady Bingham. This smaller house appears on John Roke's 1756 map of Dublin. It is traditionally believed that the current building was built for Sir John Denny Vesey, Lord Knapton, around 1760. Vesey died soon after the house was built, and it passed to his son Thomas Vesey. In 1769, Vesey sold the house to his brother-in-law Thomas Knox, who later became Viscount Northland. For many years the house was known as Northland House. Between 1810 and 1819, the house was occupied by John Adrien, a French Huguenot refugee and surgeon. Adrien lived in the house and also had rooms for his country patients, so you could say it was at some time a private hospital. In 1835 it was bought by Dublin hotelier Thomas Gresham, who leased it out as a hotel, and then over the years to various clubs. It was used by the Freemasons, the Conservative Club, and between 1845 to 51, the Irish Reform Club. 19 Dawson Street is a typical Georgian building of red brick, 4 bays wide and 4 stories above the basement. The original facade would have been a simpler design than we see now. The cornice, the 2-string courses and features around the windows are made of plaster, added in the mid-19th century. The stone doorcase is original. As with other similar 18th century houses of its kind, the kitchens, laundries and service facilities would have occupied the basement. The basement is vaulted and may have formed part of Lady Bingham's earlier house. The ground floor would have been used as formal reception rooms and the first floor for more informal entertaining. The family bedrooms would have occupied the upper floors, with the servant quarters at the very top of the house in the smallest rooms under the roof. Access to these rooms was via a small back stairs that was separated from the formal areas. There are 96 steps from the basement to the top of the house. All the upstairs rooms are now used as offices. The front reception room, with its tall sash windows looking out onto Dawson Street, is now the Academy's members' room. Portraits of past members and presidents of the Academy hang on the walls. During the 1798 rebellion, where the house was still owned by Viscount Northland, this room was used as a surgery. George Knox, son of Viscount Northland, was a close friend of Theobald Wolfe Tone. It is apt, therefore, that one of the portraits hanging on the walls of this room is of John Kells Ingram, past president of the Academy, who wrote the ballad Who Fears to Speak of 98. Behind the members' room is the council room, where the governing body of the Academy holds its meetings. This room is also called the More Library, after the Bard of Erin, Thomas More. The books lining the walls were part of More's private library and were presented to the Academy in 1855 by his widow Elizabeth. She also donated a bust of More by sculptor Thomas Kirk, which sits on the mantelpiece. When the building was occupied by the Irish Reform Club, it was proposed that the windows be boarded up, as the members of the club would make rude gestures at the Lord Mayor next door. There has been no such incident since the Academy moved in. The main staircase of Portland stone leads from the inner hall to the first floor landing. Here we see the most decorative features of the original house: the elaborate plasterwork of Rococo and Chinese fret design. The hall was originally lit by a Venetian window at landing level, looking east over the garden at the back of the house. The window was blocked off in the 1850s when the Academy moved in. A portrait of Lord Charlemont, first president of the Academy, now hangs in its place. A new window was inserted into the north wall, cutting into the plasterwork. The first floor landing leads to two rooms, the long room and the gold room. The long room so called because of its shape and size. Originally this was two rooms, but were knocked through in the 19th century. In the early days of the Academy, this room was part of the museum. Now it is used as office space. The gold room is so called as it once held gold artefacts from the Academy's museum collection. In 1853, the council made arrangements for the purchase of equipment to photograph the museum artefacts. They also erected a glass chamber on the roof for this purpose. Between 1852 and 1854, two large rooms were built onto the original 18th century house to accommodate the Academy's museum collection and ever-growing library. What is today the library reading room was originally designed as a museum space. The glazed bookcases are original to the room and were used to display museum exhibits. The large windows at ceiling level allow the room to be well lit without glare. In the 19th century, the reading room had gas lighting. Can you spot the gas pipes? Finally, we come to one of Dublin's finest rooms. The meeting room was designed as a library with two tiers of bookcases and high windows to reduce glare. Both 19th century rooms were designed by Frederick Villiers Clarendon, the Board of Works architect. He modelled this room on P.C. Hardwicke's Great Hall at Euston Station, London, which was sadly demolished in the 1960s. The cast iron work of the gallery was state-of-the-art for its time, made at the Victoria foundry of J&R Mallet. Some of the older benches at the back of the room came from the old Irish Parliament, Grattan's Parliament. The Academy acquired them after a fire in Parliament House in 1792. The President's chair came from the Irish House of Lords at the same time. It was once the Lord Chancellor's chair. The large copper gasoliers were previously thought to have come from Parliament House also, but it is more likely they were made for the room by J&R Mallet. They were originally lit by gas and electrified in 1906 and fitted with Murano glass shades. Above the bookshelves and mantelpieces are rows of busts, including a collection of Roman emperors and other historical figures copied from originals in the Capitoline Museum in Rome. They are of terracotta and were made by the Dutch-English sculptor Simon Veerpijl in the mid-18th century. The busts were originally displayed at Charlemont House on Rutland Square and were presented to the Academy in 1868. They have been keeping an eye on the comings and goings of life in the Academy ever since. We hope you have enjoyed this little journey through the history of the Royal Irish Academy. Thank you.